and welcome back to the Dugout podcast. This is episode number 31. I'm your host, Alexander Cruikshanks, and I'm joined by Ethan Barlow to talk about all the weekend's SPFL action. Ethan, how you doing, mate?
Yeah, good. I'm doing good. Another entertaining sort of set of matches. It's great having all the matches on the sort of one day.
Yeah,
But yeah, I think that's the end of that. Going onwards. But yeah, I'm good. How's yourself?
I'm good, mate. I'm good. I'm a bit, not surprised, but, you just hope that there's going to be a change, but there wasn't. And yeah, we'll just dive into it. Rangers 3, Hibs 3, Rangers 3. Celtic extend their lead to 13 points, and Rangers undoing all the good work they did on Thursday.
Yeah, definitely. I think I've said this to you already. I was kind of split on what was going to happen for Rangers yesterday, whether they were going to kick on after that result and sort of put their away form habits behind them, or whether they were going to go back to their old sort of poor form and just drop more points than they did. And it's been the same for Rangers for most of the season and most of Philip Clement's tenure, where the team shows you that sort of light that they are moving forward and they are making progress with some positive results, and then they go and drop points against teams that they're expected to and they should be beating.
Yeah, definitely. It looked like though they were gonna kick on, very dominant opening sort of half an hour, 2-0 up, and they let Hibs back in with quite a poor goal, and then Hibs get the penalty. And Martin Boyle dispatches that to make it 2 each. Rangers go in front again. Hamza Igaman scoring the perfect hat trick. He's one that you know that is one of the only shining lights right now at the club. I think he's got 10 goals and 2 assists in 900 minutes for Rangers, which is a pretty good record for a guy who's never played in Europe before. But yeah, you need to focus on other things, and then Rocky Bashiri scores the late equaliser. Rangers have a chance at the end. Igaman's so unlucky, he hits the post. He does really well to get all the way, holding off Bashiri. Bashiri had a weird game. I think he had a goal and an assist, but he he was also just pure himself, calamitous. So it was quite strange. But a couple of, mate, it's just, yeah, it is disappointing. Rangers, really poor defending, especially for the first goal and the last goal. Liam Kelly in the last goal, maybe I don't. Maybe there would be shouts from some fans for obstruction, but I just think he just doesn't get there. It's a bit of tussling in the box. It's not as if he's like being held back. So, and Hibs, Rocky Bashiri capitalises on that. The penalty is one that I am torn on because I think you put it really well, Ethan. You think if it wasn't given on the pitch, they probably wouldn't have overturned it. But the fact that it was given, they aren't going to overturn it.
Yeah, I think it's one where if your team, if it gets given against you, you're unhappy. If it's not given for you, you're unhappy. I think it's just one of them that could fall either way. I think it's as a bit of a coming together, but I think maybe Campbell just gets there in front of Hadji and Hadji brings him down, whether he means it or not. And I can see why John Beaton's given it as a penalty, but it's a hard one for Rangers to take. But yeah, I think Rangers, they started the game very well. The opening half an hour or so, really sort of back to their best, you could say. Really sort of some good football and two good goals by Igaman, as you mentioned. Um, and yeah, Rangers looked well on top in the game. A little bit of complacency. They let Hibs obviously get that goal back with Martin Boyle. Good finish. And then in the second half, it was more Hibs came into the game and they put Rangers under some real pressure. And you could maybe say the goal was coming. They obviously get the penalty, they score it with Boyle again, and then it looks like Hibs are maybe going to go on and be the ones that win the game. Obviously, Agaman scores again, another good goal to round off that perfect hat trick, which I think is the first hat trick of the Premiership season. Um,
Yeah,
and
well, there wasn't a single Premiership hat trick in 2024, and we've already got one in 2025. So
Yeah, I think the only hat trick I can remember domestically this season was Daisen Maeda's in the League Cup semi final against Aberdeen. But yeah, that doesn't sound too unbelievable. But then again, you'd probably want someone to score a hat trick in the Premiership. But Igaman's done it, and he's been brilliant for Rangers, as you mentioned. He was the one shining light when Rangers dropped points in Motherwell. He was the one shining light here again. Um, yeah, and then he gets the goal, and you think maybe Rangers are going to sneak away with 3 points. But Hibs come back again. Nicky Cadden, his balls into the box, as we always talk about. He's not actually been credited with assist for whatever reason, but it's his corner, and Rocky Bashiri headers it in well. Rangers maybe could have done a bit better defensively from the corner. Leon King maybe loses Bashiri. As you said, Kelly can maybe come and get it or claim it. But I think the first goal especially was poor from Rangers. It looked like a lot of ball watching as Boyle put it in.
yeah,
Um,
Rangers just can't deal with high balls into the box. They really seem to struggle with it, and that's an issue. You need a good defence. Obviously, it's an injury hit defence, but they shut down a way better attacking force. In Celtic, that was part of the midfield as well. But and then they go and do that against Hibs, and the only thing that could kind of come to mind here is Rangers Hibs that, um, you know, uh, and yeah, it is really really disappointing. Celtic obviously we'll talk about that. They won their game. It looked like a maybe fairly comfortable scoreline, but I think you've got some points to raise about the overall performance, Ethan. But yeah, Celtic but that's the difference. They get the job done, and Rangers haven't again. What I think you have a thing about the away table, um, concerning Ross County.
yeah, I think I referred to it on Thursday's episode after Rangers obviously beat Celtic and Ross County. Um, I think we're not Ross County went. Ross County won away. They did. Um, and Ross County won away again, as we'll get on to. But that's 3 wins in Ross County's last 3 away games, which equals Rangers away points tally of 12 from 30 Rangers have taken this season, which is a worrying statistic considering Ross County hadn't won an away game in just over a week and a half ago. That was 15 months they had went without a win away from Dingwall. So that's a sort of worrying statistic for Rangers fans. But I think, as you mentioned, with it referring Rangers and how they defended Celtic, it was the first time I think Philip Clement's named an unchanged 11. I don't know if it was this season or just in general, but that kind of shows it's the same players, but it's just been a completely different outcome for whatever reason. And yeah, it's a strange one how Rangers have been so poor in all the games apart from the Celtic game. It's whether Clement's, I don't know, focusing too much on beating Celtic.
I don't know. I think it's part of the players as well. I was watching like a match recap from the Heart and David Edgar. He does the Heart and Hand podcast, which is like a Rangers podcast, and I think he mentioned that sums up I think Rangers perfectly. They're a cup team. They can give you these one-off performances, but when it comes to just consistency, they don't have it.
Yeah. But like Man United yesterday, obviously go to Anfield and get a point, and a well-deserved point. Man United also went to the Etihad and won, but they just can't do it over a consistent basis, and it's the same with Rangers, and that's what's got to change, because it's all well and good beating Celtic. Obviously, it's brilliant. You get the bragging rights, and I was saying if Rangers maybe had even won that earlier derby, and they maybe even win the next 2 derbies in the league, they still might be behind Celtic, and at the end of the day, Glasgow's dictated by who's winning the most trophies, and that's where Rangers have got to get to, because they've been way off Celtic recently, and they're way off Celtic in the league this season. But yeah, I think there is signs of positivity still with Clement. I think he is building a decent team. He's obviously not got the squad there that he wants, but you've got to look at the sort of injuries he's got, and it's not got any better after the trip to Easter Road. I think Raskin suspended, Proper suspended for the trip to Dens, and Dujon Stalin obviously came off injured as well. Don't know whether he would just be taken off as a precaution because they've not got many options there.
So,
You would hope that.
so potentially against Dundee, oh no, proper suspension won't come until the following week, will it? Because it takes a week, doesn't it?
It said on when I was watching. I watched bits of the game and it said misses next game Dundee.
All right, okay.
So I don't really know
So
how that works.
potentially against Dundee, we'll see Leon King and Clinton Enciala, who hasn't played a game for Rangers this season, a young guy brought in from AC Milan in the summer. He looks like he's just bedding in, so he might be thrown in at the deep end, which is kind of worrying. And I'm just not confident for Dundee in any sort of away game, because it's yeah, and Dens isn't like normally it's not like an easy place to go, so um, it's I think it's going to be another long 90 minutes for the Rangers fans, unless they can take what they've done in the first half hour of the Hibs game and make that 90 minutes. I think that game, as well as Rangers in a nutshell this season, encapsulated in the 90 minutes. It's just inconsistency. You're brilliant, you're poor defending, you're letting teams back in. It just seems to just sum up Rangers season, and really disappointing for the Rangers fans. But I think Clermont will get till the end of the season at least. It's looking like. I think all the Rangers fans can hope for now is a Scottish Cup win and see a bit of consistency start to creep in, because the league, as far as the league title is concerned, it's next season. I think is the focus, unless Celtic dramatically implode, which I really can't see happening.
Yeah, no, I'd agree. I think Clement, I think he might have already done. If he's wise about it, might have just put this league season behind him. There's still a Scottish Cup to compete for, and there's still a Europa League run to be made for Rangers. Starting putting down the building blocks for next season is what he can do. I don't think, as you said, I don't think there'll be a new manager in by the start of next season. I think it would just be Rangers going backwards again. I think Clement has shown on occasions that he is the man to take Rangers forward. He just maybe needs to kind of put that together on a more consistent basis, as you said. But I think on the day you've got to give credit to Hibs. They obviously made up one of the games of the season. You would probably say it was a really kind of topsy-turvy game. Had lots penalties, goals, come back, and David Gray's got that Hibs team playing pretty well, and we wouldn't have seen that coming when we were puzzled as to why he wasn't being shown the exit door.
Yeah, maybe the Hibs board knew something we didn't.
Yeah, obviously so. I think they've only lost one in the last 9, and that was that one at Celtic Park where they maybe even could have taken something because they played pretty well. And then obviously David Gray was rewarded for their form with December's Manager of the Month. So yeah, it's looking quite good for Hibs at the moment. They're obviously made a push for top 6, and you would imagine they do creep into that top 6 over the next few game weeks.
Yeah, definitely. Right, we'll just move on to the league leaders extending their lead at the top to 13 points, with a 3-0 win over St Mirren at Celtic Park. And if you look at it at the face of it, Ethan, you'd probably think it's straightforward. They've done it again. But I think you've got some points about Celtic's performance that you want to raise.
Yeah, I don't think it was Celtic's sort of best performance of the season. We've not seen many of Celtic's best performances of the season recently. I know the results have been there, barring the obvious. They obviously got those home wins against Motherwell and St Johnstone, where there was moments of promising play, but there was no consistent sort of 90-minute. Talking about that 90-minute performance, wasn't really there, and definitely wasn't here against St Mirren. Celtic started the game pretty slowly. The groans going around the stadium for backwards passes and stuff like that, which you can imagine was going to happen after what happened on Thursday. And St Mirren defended well against Celtic. They switch off, you could probably say, for one little instance, and Celtic score. Luke McKeown plays it down the wing to Maeda, who finds Nicholas Kuhn, who scores. He's 15th of the season. And from then on, it's a little bit more comfortable around the stadium. But I think in his post-match comments, Brendan Rodgers was kind of angrily, you could say, telling the Celtic fans to back the players a little bit more and have a little bit more trust within what the players are trying to do. But it wasn't the best football to watch. It was quite a dull first half. And then Celtic did get a second from a corner, Arne Engels' corner, which was won in there by Austin Trusty, his first goal for Celtic. He obviously came in for Liam Scales, who we were talking about, had an absolute horror show at Ibrox. Trusty, first goal for Celtic, and Arne Engels' 9th assist of the season. Obviously, he does put a pretty good ball into the box. He's obviously on all the set pieces as well. And then there was a strange incident at the start of the second half where there was a massive power cut across the east end of Glasgow, which had the floodlights off for a few seconds at Celtic Park. The emergency generators obviously come into play. But I think the VAR was off for most of the second half, or certainly bits of the second half, but there wasn't really anything of major note. And then more St Mirren sort of poor defending. If you've seen it, it's a bit of a comedy sketch of a goal. It kind of bounces off Zach Hemming, who's obviously just signed for St Mirren as Ellery Balcombe, has been recalled by Brentford. He didn't have the best game, Hemming. He could have probably done better for Kuhn's first goal. He certainly should have done better along with the defence for this one, as it kind of bobbled around. And then it found Kuhn, who finished, and that's 27 goals and assists in all comps for Kuhn this season.
Yeah, remarkable.
Who got man of the match. And then the other sort of talking point of the game was maybe Greg Taylor going straight up the tunnel at full time. I think he did have an injury, but it might have been contributed to the fact that the Celtic fans or the Green Brigade certainly were singing the Kieran Tierney song, as obviously there's been massive rumours that he's going to make a return to Celtic. Brendan Rodgers also addressed that, saying it was disrespectful towards Taylor. And I would tend to agree. I think on the most part, the treatment towards Greg Taylor is pretty poor for what he's given to Celtic. He's usually a consistent performer. Obviously, has had mistakes recently. But yeah, I think I would agree with Brendan Rodgers on that point more than the groaning
it's
he made.
disrespectful to Greg Taylor. And I've maybe got a bit of a hot take, but I don't think Kieran Tierney's a good signing for Celtic.
No, I think there is definitely a point to be made on that. I think if you can get a Kieran Tierney that's going to give you maybe even 40 games a season, and you get one of the probably walks in and is automatically probably the best left back in the country. But is he going to play 40 games a season?
Exactly. That before everyone jumps all over me, I'm not denying he's excellent. That's why he got the move to Arsenal in the first place. And when he is fit, he usually does play for Arsenal because he's brilliant. But he's never fit. And I think going back to Celtic isn't a good move for him. And it's not a good move for Celtic because he will obviously have to take a cut, but I'd imagine he'd probably still be one of the highest, if not the highest earners at the club. They'll have a guy who, when he's fit, he's incredible, but he'll probably be sitting on the treatment table half the season, picking up a massive wage. you've got Greg Taylor, who's looking like he's probably going to leave, and then Alex Bailly, whose loan expires. So you, once again, you've got a crisis at left back, I think, definitely, because it looks like Celtic will be losing both of their current left backs, and they're maybe banking on bringing in a guy who isn't guaranteed to stay fit. And I can tell you from experience, having the great players who can't stay fit, it's just not worth it. One springs to mind is Kemar Roof, I think one of the best finishers I've ever seen, never fit. So, and I'm not saying he's on the same level as a player of Kieran Tierney, because he's not, because I believe if Kieran Tierney was fit all the time, he'd be playing for Arsenal every week. He might even be playing for a better team. But you know, it's I think it's a bad move for him, because I think it shows a lack of ambition. Going back to his comfort zone, sort of. I think if he wants to go, and if he has to go away, he should go. He should go to Italy. He should try go back to Spain, go to another like major top flight, and try and work on his fitness and still be playing a high level of football as well.
Yeah, I think that there's a case to be made to that, but I think also coming back to Scotland, I don't know if it was maybe in I think it was in the Arsenal documentary, the Prime one. This was years back, but I remember he was Kieran Tierney was quite homesick in London. I don't know what that's like now, but I don't know. Maybe he just wants to come back to, as you said, his comfort zone. And here in Scotland, it's
Uh,
obviously it's an easier level of football to play, probably week in, week out, less demanding, you would say.
yeah,
And maybe
probably
that is somewhere
it's
where he
less
can.
demanding in terms of intensity, but all it takes is one hammer thrower to crash into his biscuit hips, and then you know he's out for the majority of the season.
Kieran Tierney will be the second. He'll be almost likely, very likely, most. I can't get my words out. It'll be very likely that he'll be the second highest paid player at Celtic, behind McGregor. I think Celtic's wage structure kind of allows it so that Callum McGregor will automatically be the highest paid player. But I think you're looking at Kieran Tierney being on 50 grand a week probably, which is a lot of money he gives to someone who maybe isn't going to be there every week, and maybe isn't going to be there most weeks. Whereas you've got Greg Taylor there, who you can get for free. It's not costing you any money. You just need to give him a little bit more money in his contract. I don't know if this is reliable, but I heard that he wants 20 grand a week, Greg Taylor, for someone who's going to show up. He's going to be there most weeks. He's a consistent performer in the SPFL.
I don't think that's a large demand either for
No,
a player of his caliber. And uh, if what are they refusing to? Are they saying that's too high for him, or?
I don't know. I thought it would even be more than that. Maybe I've heard this and it's a load of rubbish. It very much could be. But I think no matter what Greg Taylor's asking for, I think you give him it if you're giving Kieran Tierney more than him. Obviously, Alex Bailly's going to go back to Barcelona. I think we've seen the quality in him that he is probably going to go on to be a pretty good left back. And obviously that's why he's been loaned out to Celtic to sort of develop, and he probably has developed quite well, playing just even in the training sessions and stuff like that. But yeah, he's going to go back to Barcelona. There's going to be no sort of option to buy him. So I think Greg Taylor and Kieran Tierney is a good sort of selection of left backs where you've got one who's sort of reliable, and he's going to turn up most
Is is,
weeks. And
is
then
Greg Taylor going to sign a new contract to sit on the bench behind Kieran Tierney though?
Yeah, that's the question. Maybe he wants assurances that he is going to be the first choice left back, and that's
I
why Celtic
feel
maybe
like
don't want to give him.
I feel like he's earned that right as well.
Yeah, no, definitely, but I don't think you can if you're trying to move forward as a club. I don't like the idea of giving players assurances and how many games they're going to play. Fair enough, but
No,
you're
I don't think it's like that. But I'm just meaning like if Kieran Tierney comes in and Greg Taylor signed a new deal, or he's signed a new deal on the basis that maybe Kieran Tierney won't be coming, or if he does come, he'll get a good amount of games. And let's not like joke. Let's not be serious. Let's not joke about this or like you know, let's be realistic. Kieran Tierney is miles better than Greg Taylor, and if Kieran Tierney's fit, he should be playing every single game over him. And if I was Greg Taylor, I'd be sitting there on the bench, kind of, but be like, oh, I've kind of made a mistake here because I feel like he'd have options. Greg Taylor. What was it? Zagreb were
Yeah,
apparently interested in him.
yep,
That doesn't seem like a bad move. Obviously, I don't think the quality of league is maybe as good as Scotland, but you get to go live in Croatia. You get to play Champions League football still. Although I don't know how well they're doing in the Croatian league this season, but they're usually up there. They're in Europe. You probably will get a decent wage. And they, kind of venture out of Scotland. And I think what is Greg Taylor 26, 27?
yeah, about that. Yeah,
So that's probably the time for him to do it. So if Celtic can't go, all right, we're giving you this money and you'll be our guy, I think he should probably take the option out.
yeah, I can agree with that. I think the prospect of going to work at a similar sized, maybe not on a European scale, but certainly in their own country, a similar sized club where the expectations are sort of the same, and the sort of prospect of playing top level football is the same. He's working under Fabio Cannavaro, I believe, is the new Dinamo Zagreb manager. So, yeah, I think you can agree. You can see that this one is maybe going to drag out a bit.
Yeah.
I don't think Kieran Tierney will even sign this. I think it may be a pre-contract agreement where we'll know by the summer what kind of happens, where Tierney ends up and where Greg Taylor ends up. In my opinion, I'd love to have Kieran Tierney and Greg Taylor. But then again, if Kieran Tierney gets injured, then it's just a waste of money, really, isn't it?
Yeah,
But
definitely.
yeah, I think it's definitely a point to be made by Rodgers that the treatment of Greg Taylor isn't the nicest, even when he's been a consistent performer for Celtic.
Yeah. All right. I think we'll move on to Motherwell versus Aberdeen, the other televised game of the day, Premier Sports, I believe. And yeah, Motherwell took the lead through Ewan Wilson. Fantastic finish. Just smashing it into the goal. Those are I really like those kind of shots. They're just quite satisfying to watch, and no one can get near them. And then about 9 minutes later, Slobodan Rubizic is dismissed for a red card. He appears to headbutt Tony Watt and then push him. He can't believe it, but I think he kind of knows what he's doing. He kind of gets up and thrusts his head into Tony Watt's chin and then pushes him down. And I think maybe if he just pushed him, yellow, fair. But I think the fact that he's tried to headbutt him is why he's been dismissed.
Yeah, I think it's maybe slightly harsh on Rubicic, but I think his stupidity in the moment gives Nick Walsh a decision to make. And I think he does, you can see he moves his head sort of towards Tony Watt, which is the ultimate contributing factor to why he's been sent off. I think it's surprising that Rubicic, that's his first red card for Aberdeen.
Is it?
Yeah, which I think is quite surprising. But
So
yeah,
maybe we're stigmatising him because of how he looks, and he's I don't know.
yeah,
But
possibly.
he
But
does seem like he's quite a you know
yeah,
a,
um,
that dirty player. But
I
anyway,
remember, I remember one. I think we debated on it. This was maybe I think this was last season. There was one at Celtic Park where he came absolutely clattering into Kyogo. I think he headed through the back of Kyogo, and I thought that should have been a red card. But I can understand why that maybe wasn't given. But yeah, I think he's maybe been walking a tightrope because he does kind of go flying into tackles often, and I think that you can be said for the whole of Jimmy Tilley's team. I think they're quite not you could say a dirty team, but they'll give you a game, but they haven't been giving teams games recently.
no.
That's obviously what is it now?
10.
10 without a win, which is unbelievable to think about considering where we were a few months ago with Aberdeen.
Yeah, definitely. If you told us at the time, we would have been shocked. We obviously expected a bit of a drop off, but this was astronomical. And Tawanda Maswanisi gets the second just on the stroke of half time. A nice finish from him, nice take. And he's one as well that's kind of emerging as, every season you get a couple of players outside, maybe the big ones. And you're like, oh, he's a player. I think he's definitely one for me. A great find. I think they got him on a free from Leicester City.
Yeah, I think it's it's another really good goal from Maswinise. I think it's only his fifth of the season, which I can remember him scoring more than that, but obviously hasn't. But it's similar to that one he scored against Rangers, where the first touch is just brilliant, and then it's a good finish to go with it. But yeah, Motherwell, they've been good. I think they went through a recent sort of sort of sticky period. I think that was that win there avoided them going five without one. So it was an important win. They obviously narrow the gap between themselves and Aberdeen to 4 points. Um, so Aberdeen are slowly sliding down the table. Obviously, Dundee United have obviously already overtook them the other week when they got that win. And now, yeah, Motherwell are hot on their heels. But yeah, another thing about the other scorer, Ewan Wilson, a brilliant story for him. His first goal for Motherwell after being on loan at Beef Juniors last season.
Beef
Um,
Juniors.
yeah, Beef Juniors and the West of Scotland. West of Scotland Premier Division, is it? The fifth division anyway. Yeah, so quite shows his sort of development in a short period. He's been one of Stuart Kettlewell's sort of mainstays this season. And then obviously he gets his first goal, which, as you said, was a great finish.
Yeah,
Um,
that is nice.
yeah,
Um, imagine
in
playing.
terms of the oh
Imagine you're
sorry,
at Motherwell and then you go on loan to Beef Juniors.
yeah, it's crazy. I don't really know how that comes about. I think he was on loan at Stirling Albion as well. I don't
That's a,
know
that's a bit
what
better.
Yeah, I don't know what one came first, but I know he was on loan at Beef Juniors last season. In terms of the second half in this game, I don't really think there was much. Um,
No.
there was zero shots on target. It was still an even game, even though Aberdeen went a man down, but
I
they
don't.
gave them.
Apart from maybe two of the games, Hibs and St Johnstone games, I don't think from watching the sort of highlights, the quality of football wasn't great this weekend. We did get a lot of goals and some drama with a red card, but it wasn't fantastic to watch. Maybe even you can make an argument for the Hibs game. The quality of football overall wasn't great, but it was just kind of back and forth. I think the only real team that I think showed their quality was Dundee, and we'll get on to that. So moving on to the next game, we'll go to Perth, where St Johnstone are in trouble. They lost 3-1 to Dundee. Dundee scoring three in the first half. St Johnstone getting a one back late on. I think it was Josh McPake actually, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. Yeah,
67th minute, but they couldn't properly get back, and it was just that poor first half from them. Simon Murray, Palmer Holden, and Lyle Cameron getting the goals. Big win for Dundee, but Ethan, St Johnstone, are really, really struggling at the bottom of the table. They are now 8 points adrift.
yeah. It's the gaps opened up. It's been slowly creeping up on them. And they look miles away from every other team now. Hearts look like on the up. Kelly have been picking up a decent sort of points tally. Ross County have obviously got that away run and they've been brilliant in the last few games. And obviously Dundee are I think the next team up.
Ross
And they
County are undefeated in their last four, 3 from 4 in that.
yeah. So all the teams above them are picking up points, and they're not. That's 8 without a win, 1 win in the last 12. It's really worrying for Simo Valakari. We've seen he come in and played a sort of attractive brand of football, but it's not working now. They're struggling without the goals of Mackenzie Kirk, who's obviously was out for the last game, was out again for this one. Um, and yeah, they have a lot of the ball, but they can't really seem to do anything with it. And it was a classic Tony Docherty first half. I think we gave him some criticism, or not him some criticism, some Dundee some criticism, as they were at the bottom of that expected points table. And they just done it again. Free attacks, well, not free attacks, free shots on target, free goals. That's how ruthless Dundee can be sometimes. They've got obviously talented players. Simon Murray was a good pickup and an obvious pickup from Ross County. Seb Palmer Holden's been a decent player on loan from Bristol City. I think the two strikers have got 21 goals between them this season. Obviously, some of them coming in that sort of League Cup group stage. And then the main man, Leo Cameron, gets his goal after 22 minutes to make it 3 now, his 17th goal contribution of the season, which for the position he plays is pretty ridiculous. And at that point, you think it's going to be an ugly, ugly afternoon for St Johnstone. They kind of rein in the chance conceding, or the chances they concede, and they make more of a game of it. But yeah, really good for Dundee, really, really bad for St Johnstone. And then, as you said, a good strike from Josh McPake, his first goal for St Johnstone, our first goal of the season anyway. Yeah, I think Dundee. I think it's so close in there, in the sort of teams below. I think there's only 4 points between the Hearts, who are 11th, and sixth place, St Mirren. So it's really close for all the teams sort of pushing for top six, and St Johnstone are getting left behind at the bottom.
Yeah, Dundee have a game in hand as well, and you know, obviously they come up against Rangers on Thursday, but you know, they're only 2 points behind St Mirren in sixth, and they could, if they got the win, they could, if they got the win against Rangers and then won their game in hand, they could jump up ahead. It is so close. Obviously, like a single result can make all the difference, because we were talking about Kilmarnock, and then obviously they've lost to Ross County and they're back down in 10th, but only 3 points off sixth. So from there, it's really, really tight. But yeah, St Johnstone definitely look like they'll be the ones going down, which is I don't know if kind of feels, it would feel weird, because St Johnstone have just been one of the teams that have always been there, battling it out. And it would be weird to see them in the championship, but if they don't, go on an extended run, I can't see anything else happening.
No, definitely. I think obviously we are quite young in the grand scheme of things. I'd like to say, but I don't think I've ever seen St Johnstone not in the top flight since I can remember watching Scottish football. And yeah, they obviously got that sort of new manager bounce, as I always refer to, but it's really slowed down, and you've got to debate on whether Valakari is the right man to take St Johnstone forward. Is there anyone who can claw back a 8 point deficit? Is it? Yeah, 8 points. Um, I don't know. I don't think so. I think St Johnstone are out of their depth in the Premiership. To be honest, you see all the other teams that are aspiring for top six finishes, and they're down there.
They could entice Sam Allardyce out of retirement.
Yeah, Sam Allardyce. Yeah, he could be the man. No, I don't think he could even turn this round. Yeah, I
Yeah,
think it's kind of
and if St
right.
Johnstone do go down, I think they'll be raided for all their attacking talent.
Yeah, definitely. Um,
Because if the likes of
Mackenzie.
Kim Pioka and Mackenzie Kirk, maybe not so much Nicky, I could see Nicky Clark staying, just because of his age. But Mackenzie Kirk and Benjamin Kimpioka are players that could do a job for a team that stays in the division. So I could see them getting pinched if St Johnstone go down.
No, I definitely agree with that. I think Mackenzie Kirk's probably been the best sort of youth product that's come up of the season, possibly, unless I'm missing anyone obvious.
Like,
Um, Lyle Cameron, but he's kind of not this season. I mean, like someone who's come up from the youth sort of
right.
system this season, made the step up.
Yeah,
But yeah, I think, and it's not always the case in Scotland. We don't really have many players that kind of make the jump well, but he certainly has, and I think he's got a bright future ahead of him. Owen Wilson as well would be someone I'd mention at Hearts. He's obviously he's
is it not
contributed to success.
James Wilson? You've just said the guy that plays Lightning McQueen.
Oh, yeah, I don't, as James Wilson, yeah, I have.
Yeah,
I don't know how I've done that.
yeah. James,
But yeah, James Wilson.
James Wilson,
Apologies to James and the Hearts
Bobby Wales
fans.
as well.
Bobby Wells, yeah, possibly. I think he's still to sort of really make his mark, but he has showed some good moments. Um, but yeah, I think, yeah, that's all I've really got to say.
Okay.
For Dundee, just the last thing on Dundee, I think they obviously lost McCowan, as I keep going on about. But if they lose Lyle Cameron, I think it's going to be a big issue for them. I think he's had a lot of interest from teams in Scotland and maybe down south. His contract's up at the end of the season, so I think Tony Docherty will be desperate to tie him down, but it's not going to be very easy because he's been brilliant this season.
Yeah.
And I'm sure we'll go on to the next game.
Yeah.
Lightning speed.
Yeah. Well, let's move on.
Terrible, terrible pun there.
Yeah.
Um,
We'll move on to Dundee United versus Hearts. Dundee United have been in decent form. They obviously had the big Dundee derby victory on Thursday, but they couldn't get anything against the Jambos. It's a massive win for them, to sort of keep them from falling away like St Johnstone.
Yeah, they obviously got that win against Motherwell on Thursday, which was a good win for Hearts. And now they back it up another win against another top five team in Dundee United, going to Tannadice. Not an easy place to go. Dundee United, I think it's the first time they've lost at home since October, and that was against Motherwell. And their last loss since they lost to Motherwell again, as Motherwell seem to be Dundee United's sort of bogey team this season. But yeah, a massive win for Hearts, as you said. Their second win on the bounce, and they're in the mix for top six, as all the teams in the league are pretty much, apart from St Johnstone, as we keep going on about. But yeah, I think Hearts deserved their win. Dundee United didn't really create much, and yeah,
No,
it was a well taken goal by
yeah, really.
Penrice.
I'm just looking here on football, but Liam Boyce has been credited with the assist, which
Yeah,
is hilarious. But yeah, Liam Boyce, he nearly scored a ridiculous goal, didn't he? From what was meant to be a cross, I think. But at least he gets this on his record, as he's still struggling to find the net. Obviously, in the absence of Lawrence Shankland, who hasn't been good himself this season, it's a big opportunity for Liam Boyce, and I bet he'll be quite frustrated that he hasn't been managing to take opportunities. But a really really top quality assist from him there to give it to Penrice, who put it away really well. And I always like a bit of bite. I like the wee celebration there from James Penrice. So yeah, big win for Hearts.
yeah. Penrice sticking up for his teammate there. Wee bit of wee bit of criticism from the Tannadice crowd as Liam Boyce swings and a misses, but gets enough on it to help it to Penrice, who does silence Dundee United fans for as we said, a massive win for Hearts, and I seen a Hearts fan putting on Hearts fan on X or Twitter, backing them to get top six now, and with the squad they've got and the sort of how many points they are behind, you wouldn't really make too much of a strong case against it.
You just don't know, though, do you? Just because
Yeah.
there's been so many teams, and Hearts one of them, that are so hot and cold this season.
Yeah.
Another team that have been very hot and cold is Kilmarnock, and they hosted Ross County. And Ross County, in their amazing away form, got another win. Noah Chilvers popping up with an assist. I think he heard you, Ethan. He's taking it really personally. Um,
Yeah.
Good for him, and great win for Ross County. But this game overall wasn't a great quality. I think the kind of moments I can remember, the goal, and Robbie McCrory made a couple of decent saves. But there's not much to talk about in this one, except from, a lot of people maybe before this run, Ross County were maybe one people were tipping to fall into that relegation scrap. They've kind of went, oh, we're here and we're in this scrap for top six as well, because like we said, it's anyone's game. It's so tight, and they could really pull off something amazing this season.
Yeah, I think we've sort of spoke earlier in the season about Ross County, about the fact that they do have some good players, and they do have a good manager in Don Cowie who's getting a tune out of them at the moment. Um, I think I've seen somewhere that in the last 4 games they have the most points of anyone in the Premiership, which is, well, the joint most. No, actually, no, they do have at the most 10 points from the last 4, which is more than obviously every other team's got. And it's just that shows the sort of form they're in at the moment. The 3 away wins come out of absolutely nowhere after, as I mentioned, over 15 months without a single one in the league. And as you said, No Chilvers must have heard me when I was saying he wasn't hadn't having the best season, because he's certainly been brilliant in the last few games. That's 5 goal contributions in that 3 away game run. And yeah, as you said, it wasn't a game filled with quality. I think Laurie was saying how he regretted going to the match instead of going for his usual sort of Sunday radio slot. But yeah, a massive win for Ross County against Kilmarnock, who are a team who are in the same sort of boat as them, and that sort of scrap for top 6 where any point is a good one.
Yeah.
But yeah, that George Harmon goal was the sort of only big chance or any sort of massive chance in the game, and they took
What I
it.
thought was quite funny. Obviously, so George Harmon scores, right, and he goes up to the fans, but the way the camera angle was, it just didn't show them, and it just looked like he's going like that to an empty stand. Obviously, they're further up, but I got a chuckle at that.
Yeah, I seen that. It did look pretty ridiculous, but yeah, I'm sure that the sort of Ross County was it the Ross County or the Kilmarnock fans he was celebrating in front of? I think
I
it
think
was
it
the
was
Ross
the
County,
Ross
wasn't
County fans, because there was
it?
an angle from behind the goal on the replay, and you see like hands going up in front of the camera. So I think it
Yeah,
is the Ross County fans. I
well,
just thought that was quite funny. It looks like he's celebrating to an empty stand, but they were there. There wasn't
yeah.
very many of them, but they were there.
Obviously, I was just going to say it's fair enough to the ones who travel. Obviously, Dingwall's not an easy place to get to anywhere from.
Yeah, it's
I think they've travelled the most. I've seen over the last 4 games in which they've picked up the most points, so it's credit to them. But obviously, the 3 lengthy away trips, and they've came away with 9 points, which is unimaginable for a team like Ross County. And as you said, they can dream of top 6, um, and they're going to be in there. And I think it could go any way. I couldn't tell you what team's going to get top 6, because you never know in this Scottish Premiership. Every team's filled with inconsistencies.
no, and
Um,
even the ones who were perhaps pulling away a little bit. I think Dundee United will be okay, but judging on Aberdeen's form, you never know. Motherwell are a little bit of distance, but they're only 3 points ahead of St Mirren. So 6 points ahead of Kilmarnock down in 10th. So it really is so tight up there. And from a sort of, if you're just watching to see what happens in the rest of the league and you're not super concerned about the title, it's pretty entertaining. I think. I think in terms of the top half of the table, I think Dundee United are looking like they'll finish third. If Aberdeen don't get their act together, I think just with I think it's a point I made actually. I can't remember who I was talking to, but someone said they think Rangers could finish third, and I was thinking, the point I made was, I think Rangers will drop stupid points like they did at the weekend, and they have done so many times this season. But I think that there's the rest of the clubs that will drop points as well, and they won't go on an extended run. It might not be the fact that Rangers are winning every game and just can't be caught. I think they will drop points, and the other teams will drop points as well. I think that's, for me, I think that's why Rangers will end up finishing second to Celtic, who I think will run away with the league title. But it's a really entertaining league we've got this season. There's so many, individuals popping up to focus on, and loads of red card decisions. And I've thoroughly enjoyed it. Being on this podcast as well, and even though my team might not be delivering the results most of the time, but it's been fun, and just to talk about it all, I've really enjoyed it. Yeah.
Yeah, it has been a really enjoyable season so far. Maybe you would like a little bit more competition at the top as a neutral, and maybe you would like a little bit more competition direct to St Johnstone, because St Johnstone are drifting away, as we said. But yeah, in that middle sort of pack, it is really sort of maybe just below Rangers. It is sort of just a stramash for top six places. And for Kilmarnock, I think they'll still be in. I can still see Kilmarnock battling till the end and that top six dogfight.
Definitely.
That's just I think they're. I might be incorrect in this, but I think that's just their third home loss of the season, which is quite an impressive stat considering they played those games in Europe as well. I think they only lost that 2-0 game to Celtic, in which they had a lot of shots against Celtic, and then that car crash of a game where they were beat 3-0 by St Johnstone when they went down to 10 men. I think it was Joe Wright who got sent off that day. That'll be a good guess anyway.
It was a silly challenge.
Yeah. But Kilmarnock have sort of made that a fortress for themselves. I think Laurie was touching on a really impressive stat about Kilmarnock at home against a team I can't remember who it was. But yeah, I think it's going to be a really entertaining second half of the season. Obviously, the teams will get their new recruits in, but even Celtic have shown that there is a way to play against them. There is a way to beat them. Maybe Rangers have laid down the blueprint that maybe teams are going to start taking points off Celtic. Obviously, Dundee United and Aberdeen have also caused problems for Celtic, as obviously Rangers picked up that win to break the invincibility. But yeah, really enjoyed talking about the games in the first half of the season, and long may it continue.
Yeah, definitely. The football doesn't stop. We've got games on Wednesday and Thursday coming up. It's going to be super entertaining again. Some big games in there, like you mentioned, Ethan. Dundee United coming to Parkhead. Can they do it again? We can hope. Nah, just kidding. But it was a lot of games coming up midweek. I'm not sure about our recording. If we'll get it out before the weekend, we might just end up doing, as we've done a couple of times, talking about midweek and the weekend's games on the Monday episode, because, well, we've got work and that kind of thing on the weekends, as we are in minimum wage university workers. But but thank you to everyone for watching and listening. We will be back, not sure when, but at least it'll be next week. Go check out the Twitter at the Dugout 2024. We've kind of let that slack off a little bit, but you can best believe with the January window in full flow, we'll be on there talking about plenty of stuff. I'll probably be on the deadline day watch again as I was in the summer. That was exhausting, but it was really enjoyable. And yeah, thank you and goodbye.